Hello everybody, SlimKirby here. Today I am here making this video because there are a few things I wanted to get off my chest, mostly in relation to the Mario Party 6 Clockwork Castle E3 2010 discussion disaster that I personally created in two of my recent Mario Party videos. As I said, this happened in Clockwork Castle, mainly the first two parts 1 and 2. Uh, During these two parts, I discussed E3 2010, and during this discussion, I actually showed quite a bit of favoritism, almost too much favoritism towards Nintendo, and as a result, I gave Sony and Microsoft a lot less credit than I think they actually deserved. And after I made this discussion, looking at the comments of the video, while most of the comments are actually pretty positive, there were actually quite a bit of negative comments as well. And before users start thinking that I'm merely just responding to the comments of trolls, to be honest, I actually looked over those comments, and after I looked over those comments, I watched my videos back, and to an extent, I actually kind of agree with them. I felt that in the way I described things, I was actually being fairly hypocritical, a position I wasn't actually trying to be. But basically, I do understand why a lot of people thought I was being biased merely from the way I was stating things. So what I want to do here is I want to make a video basically to catch you guys up and get you guys on the same page I am with this whole discussion, and to merely fill in a few gaps I may have left unfilled. So that is basically the purpose for this video. First things first, I want to clarify something that I probably should have done originally in those videos in the first place. Everything I discussed was in my own personal and to an extent impartial opinion. The reason I say somewhat impartial is that I will admit I do show quite a bit of favoritism towards Nintendo, mainly because that is the system and the company I've grown up with, and it's the system I feel the most comfortable playing. With that being said, though, I mean, I don't give any less credit to Sony or Microsoft for what they do. I think they have some great systems. They've had a lot of great games on those systems. And while I don't actually own a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox 360, I have actually played the systems before. I have a lot of friends. My friends do have these consoles, and I have played, certain games with them on these consoles. And for the most part, yeah, we have a lot of fun. The games are pretty fun, and I do enjoy the experiences. I just don't think the experiences are honestly worth the money that they are today in this economy and the market today. I honestly just don't have the money to afford a 360 or a PlayStation 3, and even if I did, I mean, I'm a college student. I don't want to spend all my money on a gaming system, and I'll probably need that money for a lot of other things too. And I just want to assure you guys that I'm not just a Nintendo hermit or anything. I have seen these other consoles in action, and I know what they're capable of. I think they're capable of great things, and I can't deny them of any of that. I just can't do that. It wouldn't be fair. So I just wanted to, get that out of the way. As for the actual E3 2010 conferences, here is basically what I felt and what I was trying to, get across to you guys, which, unfortunately, as I said earlier, kind of got lost in translation a little bit. Honestly, I don't think really Sony or Microsoft did that bad. I know I made it seem like they did a lot worse than they actually did, but for the most part, they went into those conferences doing what they hoped to achieve. They mainly wanted to introduce their hardware and then, throw out a few games as well. Personally, I was not very impressed with the hardware aspect of their conferences, but I think they definitely delivered in the software aspect. The only thing is, I wish they probably would have talked about the software a lot more. And again, that just goes back to what I said earlier. It's my own personal opinion. You guys might disagree with me, and that's fine. Disagree with me all you want. I don't care if you do. In fact, I encourage you to disagree with me. Just try to understand my opinion before you bark your opinion at me. Although I will admit it would have been a lot more helpful if I could actually properly broadcast my opinion. But I'm not going to go into that again. I mean, we could spend all day discussing about what we did wrong. In the end, we're both wrong in certain aspects. That's really all I have to say about that. And something else I kind of said in my video that I got heavily criticized for was a particular statement I said at one point where I said something like Microsoft and Sony had a lot of stuff you would normally expect, while Nintendo didn't. Which, looking back at that statement, I really used the wrong words in that statement. That was completely my fault. I feel really bad for saying that because that was actually pretty biased if you look at the facts, because when you actually examine what Nintendo had for their lineup, they didn't really have any original titles in their conference. They basically, had a lot of continuations of their past franchises and, series that they've been famous for several years now. However, one thing I will, kind of give credit to Nintendo for doing is a lot of the stuff they announced, I mean, they had some element of surprise to it, or they had one thing that actually made that game unique. And for example, like if you look at the Kid Icarus game and then the Donkey Kong Country Returns game, I mean, they haven't had a Donkey Kong Country game in over 15 years almost. And for the Kid Icarus game, that game was on the NES, and they haven't made a new game for that in many, many years. NES is long since dead. The Super NES, N64, and GameCube, are dead now, so that's like a 5-system jump almost. Or is it a 4? Let me see. 1, 2, 3. Okay, no, it's a 4-system jump. That game pretty much skipped 3 generations before coming back. I mean, that's pretty big if you ask me. You can't just say, oh, just another classic Nintendo franchise game, because it's not. It's a game that hasn't been done in over 20 years almost. And then Donkey Kong Country, I mean, yeah, we had Donkey Kong 64, but, I mean, that wasn't really a Donkey Kong Country game. It was just, another platforming game with, similar elements, I will admit, but it honestly felt more like Mario 64 than it did a Donkey Kong Country game. But basically, yeah, we haven't seen that game in about 15 years. The GoldenEye game, it's a remake of a very classic, influential first-person shooter game. It was like one of the first-person shooter games of its time. It definitely wasn't the first, but it was like one of the most influential first games anyways. I mean, that game pretty much made multiplayer first-person shooting popular back in the day, back in the N64 era. And for other games, such as, the new Kirby game, I mean, it hasn't been that long since we last saw a Kirby platformer, since we had the DS remake back in, I think, 2008. But, I mean, it's the first new platforming Kirby game we've had since, platforming console game, I should say, since Kirby 64. And not only that, the game itself is actually really unique in the gameplay and then the art style. I mean, it's nothing I've never really even seen before. And that's what I love about it. When I look at, the new Call of Duty game, I'm thinking, didn't we just have a Call of Duty game last year? And then the year before that? I mean, honestly, I haven't played very much Call of Duty. I have, observed people playing different Call of Duty games. But I couldn't honestly really tell you the difference between them besides the obvious visual differences and the, different kind of content between the games. Besides that, I honestly couldn't tell you really much of a difference. And that is where I draw the distinctions between that and then the games that Nintendo released. I think, honestly, all the companies have, kind of a problem with releasing sequels after sequels and threequels and, various games of the same franchise. But in my own personal opinion, I think Nintendo, kind of keeps it fresh a little bit. They actually, add some unique gameplay elements and different kinds of features. Like, when I first saw, Super Mario Galaxy in comparison with, Mario 64 and Sunshine, I was blown away with what I saw. And that is how I think, Nintendo, kind of implements those unique features into their obviously overmilked games, I will admit. But in a nutshell, that is basically all I wanted to discuss in this video. Take what you want from it. I really only made this video because I really wanted to set a few things straight. I really felt kind of embarrassed with how unprofessional I was in that discussion. There were a lot of things I really wish I would have done, so much that I almost even considered deleting those videos, but then if I did that, I would obviously screw the whole playthrough up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link this video to that video and then that video to this video, and hopefully if people were angered by what I said in that video, they can see this video and they can actually have, a better elaboration of what I said in those videos. But otherwise, that's about it. See you guys later.